Are you Alex Murphy?
RoboCop wasn't just a sci-fi action flick from the 1980s. It was a brutal, blood-soaked satire that nearly earned an X rating and pushed its actors to the breaking point. Behind Paul Verhoeven's dystopian masterpiece lies a production plagued by toxic chemical exposure, actors passing out inside suffocating robot suits, and special effects so realistic that police officers showed up on set believing they were witnessing an actual murder. The film that defined cyberpunk cinema was built on the backs of a crew pushed to their absolute limits. Today, we're diving into 20 weird facts about RoboCop that will forever change how you see this groundbreaking film. And stick around until the end for our bonus fact that reveals the unexpected real-world legacy this fictional future left on actual law enforcement. Ready to have your circuits rewired with the truth? Let's begin. Fact to short one, Peter Weller wasn't just uncomfortable in the RoboCop suit. He was suffering. The original suit, designed by Rob Bottin, weighed nearly 80 pounds and took over 10 hours to put on. During the first day of shooting, Weller couldn't perform even basic movements and lost 3 pounds of water weight from sweating inside the non-ventilated costume. It wasn't a minor setback, it was a full-blown crisis. The production fell behind schedule by 3 days, as Bottin's team frantically redesigned portions of the suit. Weller became so frustrated that he stopped speaking to the effects team entirely. His mime coach, Moni Yakim, had to completely rethink RoboCop's movements, developing what would become the character's iconic robotic motion style out of pure necessity. What audiences saw as deliberate artistic choice was born from the practical limitations of a suit that nearly shut down production before it began. Fact number 2. The famous ED-209 boardroom malfunction wasn't supposed to be that violent. When the hulking robot malfunctions and guns down Executive Kinney, director Paul Verhoeven instructed his effects team to make it look bad. What they delivered shocked even the veteran Dutch filmmaker. The scene uses stop-motion animation combined with practical explosives and over 200 squibs of fake blood to create one of cinema's most memorable corporate deaths. When filming wrapped, Verhoeven found himself surrounded by horrified American crew members who couldn't believe what they just captured. It wasn't a simple death scene, it was a statement. Verhoeven later revealed he intended the sequence as a critique of American corporate callousness and militarized police forces. The MPAA demanded the scene be cut by several seconds to avoid an X rating, but even in its trimmed form, the sequence remains a masterclass in excessive violence, serving satirical purpose. Fact number 3. Nancy Allen, who played Officer Lewis, didn't know she'd be shooting in toxic waste. The scenes filmed at an abandoned steel mill outside Pittsburgh exposed the cast and crew to genuine chemical hazards. What they thought was just an industrial location with dramatic lighting was actually contaminated with lead paint, asbestos, and chemical runoff. During night shoots in the mill's drainage channels, Allen and other cast members stood ankle-deep in stagnant water mixed with unknown industrial chemicals for hours. Multiple crew members reported skin rashes and respiratory issues. Allen herself developed a persistent cough that lasted weeks after filming concluded. Production didn't provide hazard pay or protective equipment. It wasn't the normal challenges of location shooting. It was negligent exposure to dangerous conditions that would violate modern safety protocols. These toxic surroundings unintentionally reinforced the film's themes about corporate disregard for human welfare. Fact number 4. RoboCop's iconic gun wasn't a prop. It was a real Beretta 93R modified to look futuristic. The weapons master, Randy Moore, started with a functioning automatic pistol and built a custom shell around it that could still fire blanks. The gun weighed over 5 pounds, significantly more than a standard sidearm. Weller couldn't hold it with one hand for extended periods without his arm shaking, which is why many scenes show RoboCop firing with an unusually rigid posture. The gun twirl RoboCop performs, now an iconic character moment, wasn't in the script. It was a trick Weller developed during breaks to strengthen his wrist so he could manage the weapon's weight during extended takes. When Verhoeven spotted him practicing, he immediately incorporated it into the film. What began as physical necessity became one of the character's most recognizable mannerisms, copied by fans and referenced in sequels for decades afterward. Fact number 5. The Detroit Police Department wasn't imaginary. The film shot at actual police stations. Verhoeven secured unprecedented access to multiple Dallas police facilities, standing in for Detroit, and incorporated real officers as extras. What audiences didn't know was that several scenes feature actual police equipment, locker rooms, and holding cells that were still in active use during filming. The production scheduled around police shifts, sometimes having just hours to capture scenes before facilities returned to official use. This arrangement nearly ended when officers watched footage of the Emil melting scene, where a criminal dissolves after falling into toxic waste, and became concerned about the film's extreme content. A high-ranking Dallas police official threatened to revoke all filming permissions until Verhoeven screened early footage showing the film's pro-police themes. The authenticity viewers feel watching the police station scenes isn't movie magic. It's actual law enforcement infrastructure captured between shifts. Fact number 6, Kurtwood Smith, who played villain Clarence Boddicker, genuinely terrified the cast and crew. Before RoboCop, Smith was known primarily for gentle teacher roles and dramatic theater work. Verhoeven cast him against Aden type precisely because he wanted someone unexpected. Smith transformed so completely that crew members avoided him during breaks. His method approach included staying in character between takes, practicing his menacing sneer in mirrors, and improvising many of Boddicker's most disturbing lines. The iconic "bitches leave" wasn't scripted. Smith added it during filming, shocking Verhoeven, who immediately kept it. Ray Wise, who played fellow gang member Leon, later admitted feeling actual fear during scenes where Boddicker threatens him. Smith's performance wasn't just acting, it was calculated psychological intimidation that created genuine tension on set. This discomfort translated directly to screen, giving RoboCop one of science fiction's most believably sociopathic villains. Fact number 7. The notorious cocaine warehouse scene contained a hidden tribute to Verhoeven's past trauma. When RoboCop raids the drug den and dispatches criminals with brutal efficiency, keen-eyed viewers might notice unusual bullet patterns on the walls. These aren't random. Verhoeven instructed the effects team to recreate the precise bullet hole patterns he remembered from buildings in his hometown during the Nazi occupation of Netherlands. As a child, Verhoeven witnessed firefights between resistance fighters and German forces. These memories, seared into his consciousness, found their way into RoboCop's violence. It wasn't gratuitous action, it was processing childhood trauma through cinema. The director never explained this connection to the studio or most crew members, considering it a private artistic expression. This personal dimension adds unspoken weight to a scene that might otherwise register as standard action fare, revealing how deeply Verhoeven's European war experiences influenced his American ultraviolence. As Fact number 8, the baby food scene wasn't just character development, it saved the production money. When RoboCop returns to his former home and experiences flashbacks to his human life, we see him struggling to eat, eventually settling on baby food. This character moment, showing his alienation from humanity, was added after budget cuts forced elimination of several expensive action sequences. Writer Edward Neumeier developed the scene overnight after the production lost $600,000 in funding just weeks into filming. What began as cost-cutting necessity became one of the film's most emotionally resonant moments. Peter Weller later cited this scene as the emotional core of the character, the moment where audiences truly connect with Murphy's lost humanity. Verhoeven initially fought against the scene, wanting more action, but later acknowledged it as essential to the film's unexpected emotional impact. A budget-saving compromise ultimately delivered the character's most humanizing moment. Fact under chain. The iconic RoboCop theme was rejected by the studio 3 times. Composer Basil Poldoris created a martial, brassy score that Orion Pictures executives dismissed as too militaristic and not commercial enough. They pushed for a more electronic Vangelis-style soundtrack following the success of Blade Runner. Poldoris refused to compromise, threatening to quit the production and take his work with him. The standoff lasted weeks, with Verhoeven caught in the middle but ultimately siding with his composer. The studio finally relented after a test screening where audiences specifically praised the music. It wasn't just background scoring, it was thematic storytelling. Poldoris explained that his composition intentionally transforms throughout the film, beginning mechanical and gradually incorporating more emotional, human elements as Murphy reclaims his identity, a musical journey parallel to the character's evolution that would have been lost with the studio's preferred electronic approach. Fact number 2. The suit didn't just look uncomfortable, it left permanent marks on Peter Weller's body. After 80 days of filming in the restrictive costume, Weller developed deep pressure wounds and persistent bruising across his torso and shoulders. The suit's weight distribution concentrated pressure on specific points that cut into his skin despite protective padding. By the final weeks of shooting, medics were treating Weller daily for skin abrasions and heat exhaustion. The physical toll extended beyond the production. Weller reported lingering nerve sensitivity in his shoulders for years afterward. He couldn't raise his right arm above shoulder level for nearly 4 months after filming concluded. It wasn't just acting, it was physical sacrifice that permanently altered his body. Hey, go ahead and like and subscribe because we're just getting to the really wild stuff that the studio never wanted you to know. The second half of this list contains the facts they tried to keep buried for decades. Fact number 11. The famous, "I'd buy that for $1?" catchphrase wasn't random, it was cutting commentary on inflation. Writer Edward Neumeier included the nonsensical slogan from the show within a film, "It's Not My Problem," as deliberate satire. In early drafts of the script, Neumeier included a scene explaining that severe inflation had made $1 nearly worthless in RoboCop's future, making the catchphrase absurdly meaningless, like offering someone a penny for their thoughts in our time. The exposition was cut for pacing, but the line remained. Test audiences found it so memorable that the studio insisted on including it more frequently throughout the film. What began as subtle economic commentary became the film's breakout catchphrase, appearing on merchandise without the satirical context Neumeier intended. The writer later expressed frustration that his critique of consumer culture became consumer culture itself, an irony he noted was perfectly in line with the film's themes. Fact number 12. The famous RoboCop suit isn't one costume, it's 27 different versions. Rob Botton's effects team created specialized suits for different filming requirements, close-ups, action sequences, damaged versions, and stationary shots each had dedicated costumes. The complexity created continuity nightmares. Eagle-eyed fans have spotted numerous inconsistencies where RoboCop's appearance changes between cuts in the same scene. The hero suit, used for close-ups, contained cooling systems and articulated joints that aren't present in the action versions. One suit was specifically designed to look good when wet, used exclusively for the scenes at the steel mill. The maintenance required was staggering. A team of 7 technicians worked exclusively on suit upkeep, spending up to 5 hours each night repairing damage from that day's shooting. It wasn't a costume, it was a constantly evolving technical challenge that consumed nearly a quarter of the film's effects budget just to maintain. Fact number 13. The original script featured a radically different ending that tested terribly. In Neumeier and Michael Miner's first draft, RoboCop's final confrontation wasn't with Dick Jones, but with a fully corrupted ED-209 that had absorbed Jones' consciousness after the executive's death earlier in the film. This robot versus robot battle would have taken place atop the OCP building during a violent lightning storm that damages both combatants. Test audiences found the ending confusing and unsatisfying, lacking the human element of the final film. Reshoots created the now famous boardroom confrontation where RoboCop exploits his fourth directive. The new ending cost an additional $1.2 million and delayed release by 3 months, but dramatically improved audience response. It wasn't a minor adjustment. It was a fundamental rethinking of the film's climax that transformed a sci-fi action film into a more pointed corporate satire, where RoboCop's victory comes through exploiting corporate policy rather than superior firepower. Fact photo 14, Miguel Ferrer wasn't acting during his cocaine scene, he was genuinely ill. When his character Bob Morton is seen using cocaine during his celebration party, Ferrer was actually battling a severe sinus infection. The white powder used as a prop was powdered milk, which irritated his condition and caused his eyes to water uncontrollably. Verhoeven, rather than stopping for medical attention, kept cameras rolling, appreciating how Ferrer's genuine discomfort created a more convincing portrait of drug-fueled excess. The actor later revealed he was running a 101-degree fever during filming, but was too intimidated by Verhoeven to request a shooting delay. What audiences interpreted as method acting showing cocaine's effects was actually an actor working through legitimate illness. Ferrer's raspy voice and reddened eyes in the scene, perfect for portraying a man indulging in excess, were symptoms of an infection that required medical treatment immediately after shooting wrapped. Fact 15, the infamous melting man sequence caused a real-life how police response. When Emil crashes into a vat of toxic waste and subsequently melts in graphic detail, the effect was so convincing that concerned citizens called 911 reporting a horrific accident. 2 Dallas police units arrived at the location expecting to find a chemical spill victim, only to discover a film crew capturing one of cinema's most memorable death scenes. The effect itself, created by Rob Botton's team, used a life cast of actor Paul McCrane with progressive melting stages animated through stop motion. The sequence took 27 hours to shoot for just 42 seconds of screen time. The responding officers weren't amused, threatening to shut down production for creating a public disturbance. It wasn't just movie magic, it was special effects so convincing they triggered genuine emergency response and nearly derailed the entire production schedule. Fact 16, the Murphy family home scene hides a bitter industry battle. The suburban house where Murphy experiences flashbacks was initially unavailable for filming when the homeowners discovered it would be used for RoboCop, which they considered inappropriate. Producer John Davison offered triple the standard location fee, but the owners still refused. Desperate to use the perfect location they'd already established in pre-production photography, Davison researched and discovered the homeowners were selling the property. Working through multiple shell companies, production secretly purchased the house outright for $175,000, substantially above market value, completed filming, then immediately resold it at a $35,000 loss. This extraordinary measure was kept secret from the studio, with the purchase disguised as various production costs. It wasn't standard location scouting, it was Hollywood subterfuge that shows the lengths producers went to maintain Verhoeven's specific vision, even at significant financial cost. Fact 17. RoboCop's visor was designed with a fatal flaw that wasn't discovered until halfway through production. The iconic black visor on RoboCop's helmet, central to the character's intimidating appearance, was fabricated from a specialized vacuum-formed plastic that unpredictably warped under the hot studio lights. Halfway through filming, the effects team realized they were going through replacement visors at an unsustainable rate, with some lasting only hours before developing visible distortions. With custom manufacturing taking weeks, the production faced potential shutdown. The solution came from an unexpected source, a NASCAR parts manufacturer who produced similar visors for race car drivers. They rushed 35 replacement visors made from more heat-resistant material, saving the production. What audiences don't notice is that RoboCop's visor subtly changes shape and reflectivity throughout the film, not an artistic choice, but a desperate adaptation to material limitations that nearly derailed the entire project. Fact near Year 18, the corporate satire commercials were originally part of the film. The darkly humorous advertisements punctuating the narrative, including the memorable Nuke M board game and heart disease medication Yamaha, were shot after principal photography wrapped. Early test screenings indicated audiences found the film's corporate criticism too heavy-handed. Rather than tone down the message, Verhoeven and Neumeier decided to emphasize it through exaggerated commercials that contextualizing the film's world. These segments were produced on a shoestring $25,000 budget over a frantic 3-day shoot with skeleton crews and volunteer actors. The Family Heart Center commercial, featuring a smiling surgeon with a bloodied chainsaw, was considered too extreme by the studio, who demanded its removal. Verhoeven fought successfully to keep it, arguing these satirical elements were essential counterpoints to the film's violence. It wasn't last-minute filler, it was crucial world-building that established RoboCop's universe as a fully realized dystopian satire rather than merely a violent action film. Fact in Year 19. The infamous toxic waste death almost killed stuntman Julius LaFleur. When RoboCop's colleague Murphy gets doused with toxic chemicals, the scene required LaFleur to be covered in a specially formulated slime that production chemists assured was safe for brief skin contact. What they didn't account for was the studio lights rapidly heating the chemical compound to dangerous temperatures. After just 15 seconds under the lights, LaFleur began experiencing severe burning sensations across his exposed skin. The steam rising from his body that added such realism to the shot wasn't an effect, it was the chemical mixture actually burning him. Production medics immediately drenched him in neutralizing solution, but LaFleur still suffered second-degree chemical burns on 15% of his body. The footage captured during this genuine emergency became the final cut scene in theaters. It wasn't movie magic, it was an actual chemical accident captured on film that left a performer permanently scarred. Factoid 20. The ED-209 wasn't just stop-motion animation, it was a full-size practical effect that caused structural damage. The 10-foot robot antagonist existed as both a miniature for animation sequences and as a 700-pound full-scale model for scenes where actors directly interact with it. During filming at Dallas City Hall, the massive prop was positioned in the building's spacious atrium. What production didn't account for was the concentrated weight on the granite floor's relatively thin support structure. During positioning, the ED-209 model cracked 3 floor tiles and began sinking into the subfloor. City officials halted filming immediately, fearing structural damage to the building. Engineers worked overnight to reinforce the floor area, and filming resumed with the prop distributed across a specially designed weight dispersal platform. The incident cost the production $32,000 in repairs and permit renegotiations. It wasn't just a filming challenge, it was a legitimate structural threat to a government building that nearly got the production permanently banned from the location. RoboCop didn't just predict the future of law enforcement, it inadvertently influenced it. In 2019, the Dubai police force unveiled their first robotic officer, a patrol unit designed for public spaces that was explicitly inspired by the 1987 film. The robot, equipped with facial recognition and connectivity to criminal databases, even included design elements that paid homage to RoboCop's silhouette. More disturbing, multiple police departments across the United States have filed patents for automated systems that use RoboCop's prime directives as their basic ethical framework. Detroit, the city portrayed as a crime-ridden wasteland in the film, launched an actual Project RoboCop in 2013, deploying semi-autonomous surveillance systems in high-crime areas. The film's writer, Edward Neumeier, has expressed profound discomfort with these developments, stating, "We wrote RoboCop as a warning, not an instruction manual." What began as satirical science fiction has gradually transformed into unsettling reality, proving once again that yesterday's dystopian cinema often becomes tomorrow's disturbing headlines. RoboCop wasn't just a film that entertained audiences for 2 hours. It was a cultural touchstone that permanently altered science fiction cinema, corporate satire, and even the actual development of law enforcement technology. Behind the gleaming armor and quotable lines lies a troubled production that pushed its creators to physical and creative breaking points, and somehow emerged as an enduring masterpiece. And if you enjoyed discovering the painful truth behind this 80s classic, hit subscribe and let me know in the comments which film secrets you want revealed next. Remember, even the most polished Hollywood productions hide chaotic realities, and I'm here to expose every single one. Dead or alive, the truth is coming with me.